Hi there, and welcome to the cow eye dissection. So this is a cow eye. It's pretty big, but think about cows. They're big animals, so they're going to have big eyes. All of this stuff here is fat. Remember, anytime you see white material, white stuff on any specimen like this, it's real kind of waxy feeling. That's going to be the fat tissue. The fat tissue is used to cushion the eye and support it and just make sure that it doesn't get squished. I mean, your eye is in the orbit of the eye and the skull, so the skull bones will definitely protect it, but the fat just gives another cushioning for that. So before we do anything, I'm going to cut away all of this fat tissue. This stuff right here is muscle tissue. So these were the muscles that control the movement of the eye. Remember, we have what are called 6 pair of extrinsic muscles that control the movement of our eyes. So looking up, down, to the side. I talked about these in the eye video that we did. So that's what these are. So these are just cut and trimmed out before they do anything with the eye. So let me cut this stuff. So I'm going to start cutting, and then what I'll do is I'll cut away from the video and come back to it in just a second. Okay, I am back and I have cut away a bunch of tissue, fat tissue here, so that you can see these other structures more clearly. So now it looks a little bit more like an eyeball. And so this is the front of the eye. And before we cut into it, let's look at the external characteristics. So this outer, there's still some fat tissue here, but this outer white portion of the eye, you can see it really good right here. Remember, that's the sclera, that very hard covering that makes up the body of the eyeball. You see your sclera when you look, or other people's sclera when you're looking in the mirror. You see the whites of people's eyes. That is the sclera that you're looking at. And that's where all this muscle and fat, the muscle back here and the fat that I cut away a lot of, is attached to the sclera. This is the front of the eye, the anterior portion, and this covering right here, it's kind of cloudy now because this animal is not living anymore, but this part that sticks out, I'm going to turn it to the side, you can see that a little bit better. That is the cornea. Again, it's cloudy or kind of blue looking because the animal is not alive. That's the covering over the very anterior portion of the eye. That's the part of the eye that you put your contact lens on if you wear contact lenses. But it's kind of like a window that allows light to come through there. Okay, so let's go ahead. One other thing, at the back of the eye, you see this little thing sticking out here. This is the optic nerve. Remember, that is the nerve that goes from the eye to the brain. And so these signals that are transmitted when light hits the retina, they're converted into a electrical signal to the brain. And that goes to the occipital lobe of the brain and allows you to perceive senses and vision. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut into the eye. I'm going to make a coronal suture or a frontal incision to separate from anterior and posterior parts of the eye. So I'm going to cut this way. And if you were here in person, you can kind of see that there. That is fluid that's kind of coming out of the eye. That's normal. You have it in your eye as well. Notice it's kind of difficult to cut through this. It's a very thick, that thick sclera layer. Of course, oh, there we go. Usually you get the spurt of the fluid once you get through all the way. Okay, so I'm almost through that. You can kind of see the inside of the eye now. This scalpel is not very sharp. That does not help. Okay. All of this fluid coming out is the vitreous fluid. Remember, that's kind of like that jelly-like substance. There's also some aqueous humor at the front of the eye. That's the watery material that gives support and shape to the different chambers, the anterior and posterior chambers of the eye. And remember in the video when I talked about how if you have too much fluid in the eye because of uncontrolled diabetes, and that can cause pressure, put pressure on the retina. Well, I'm going to pull this a little bit. All this that I'm pulling now is the retina that didn't, it kind of came, there we go, now you can see it better. Okay. So now we have the two halves of the eye, the front and the back. Here you can see this jelly-like material. That's the vitreous humor that I was just talking about. Okay, I'm going to just kind of scoop it out. Get it out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and completely cut through this. Use some scissors here. There you go. This, get more of this vitreous fluid out. This blackish looking stuff here, that's the choroid layer, part of the choroid layer. That's that middle one that kind of reflects light rays. Make sure it doesn't kind of bounce around. This right here that I'm pulling out is the lens of the eye. Okay, so that is the lens. And you can kind of see the shape. It's a convex shape. Remember that the lens is what bends light rays in order for them to hit at that one spot at the back of the eye that has the greatest visual acuity. And I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, on this now, you can see, if you're looking, make sure the light's pointing right there, you see the slit right here, that's the pupil. And it is controlled, the size of that is controlled by these muscles here that are called the iris. And so we can actually pull this out and be able to see the color of the cow's eye. So I can gently pull this out like this. I don't want to tear it. Get it in one piece. There we go. And if we turn it around, now you can see the front or the anterior portion. This is the iris. The cow had a brown eye. These are the muscles, and you can kind of see the individual striations of those muscles there. So this is the iris, and this would be the pupil. And that watery fluid I'm fixing to dump out. You see there, that's the aqueous humor that was at the anterior part of the eye. And now you can see this other angle of the cornea, the other side of the cornea, which was the part that kind of bulged out in the front, anterior part of the eye. So that's the front part. Now this is the back posterior part of the eye. This light tan looking layer here, this is the innermost layer of the eye. It's only in the back, about the back 2/3. This is the retina. This is the part of the eye that has the photoreceptor cells that allow you to see color, and those are the cones, and then the rods are the ones that distinguish kind of different shades of light and dark. You notice I can't pull, when I start pulling, it's stuck to that one spot, okay? That is called the optic disc, and that is where the optic nerve will come out. So we can pull off the retina, and you can kind of see, I'll show you that in just a second, that spot. Now this colorful thing you see here, we humans do not have this in the back of their eye. A lot of animals will have this extra layer. It's called the tapetum, T-A-P-E-T-U-M, and notice it's kind of got that iridescent color. This allows for light to be reflected back out more, and then allows the animal to see really well at night. Like I said, we don't have one of these. And this is what, like when you shine a flashlight out at night and you see those white eyes looking at you from an animal, you're seeing the reflection of light off of this structure. We don't have this. Instead, when someone takes a picture at a certain angle and you get the red eye from the picture, that's a reflection of light back out. But instead of looking white, it looks red because of the blood vessels that are in the kind of the color of the retina, which would normally be red from the blood vessels. So I'm going to pull this out too. It's really pretty. Okay, and so then you can really see the choroid layer, that middle layer, and then this is, I'm clearing out all that stuff. This is where the retina was attached, the optic disc. And on the back side of that, if we cut away all this fat here, it would be where the optic nerve, it comes out of the eye. There's actually no vision that takes place at this point where the optic nerve exits the eye. You can really see how thick the sclera is. So all of this that I have in the tweezers is fat. So we can kind of cut away some more of that to really see the specific eyeball or the sclera. right here. You can really see it good now. When we cut away some of this fat and the muscle, that's muscle tissue right here. You can see the fibers. It looks kind of like your chicken that you ate or your steak. Did I ruin that for you? Sorry, not sorry. All right, so now you can really see the sclera, and you can feel, you can hear me picking at it, and that you can see the thickness of it there in this shot of the eye. Okay, so that is the cow eye. Ours is not as big as this, but looks very similar in structure. Just the difference is that we don't have this tapetum or that this kind of rainbow blue looking structure there. So I hope you enjoyed seeing me decimate this cow eye, and have a great day. Bye.